Hidden throughout North America are stories that go back further than the pyramids, older than mighty empires, and older than much of written history itself. Some exist as legends, some survive through ancient objects, and others live on as quiet stories passed from one generation to the next. But they all share one powerful truth: no one has fully solved them. These mysteries reach across deserts and mountains, from sacred caves to forgotten burial grounds, leaving researchers confused and storytellers amazed. These are the unsolved mysteries of Native American tribes that will truly blow your mind. 15. Geronimo's missing skull. Let's begin with one of the most well-known unsolved mysteries connected to Native American history. This story has followed the legendary Apache leader Geronimo for more than 100 years, and even today, the real truth seems hidden behind sealed records, old correspondence, and rumors passed in whispers. Over time, the mystery has grown so complicated that separating fact from legend has become incredibly difficult. Geronimo died in 1909, while he was still being held as a prisoner of war at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Nearly 10 years later, a strange story began circulating. Members of Yale University's secret society, Skull and Bones, were reportedly stationed at the base during World War I and were said to have secretly dug up Geronimo's grave. According to the legend, they removed his skull, several leg bones, and a few personal objects as trophies. These items were then allegedly transported to New Haven, Connecticut, where they were hidden inside the society's private, windowless building known simply as the Tomb. The rumor became even more believable when a letter dated 1918 appeared. It was written by one member of the society to another and claimed that the skull of Geronimo the Terrible was safely stored inside the tomb. Because members of Skull and Bones promised lifelong secrecy, no one from inside the organization has ever officially confirmed or denied whether the story is true. Geronimo's family members have spent years searching for answers. They even filed a major lawsuit requesting that his remains be returned, whether they are still at Fort Sill in New Haven or somewhere else entirely. However, many Native leaders point out that Apache traditions discourage disturbing graves, and some believe the true resting place of the famous warriors' remains may have changed long ago, making the mystery even harder to solve. 14. The disappearance of the Anasazi. When one of the most advanced Native American civilizations began disappearing around the year 1300 AD, it left behind a mystery that continues to fascinate people today. The Anasazi, now called the Ancestral Puebloans, constructed enormous stone settlements in places like Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde. Their homes were built into cliffs, spread across deep canyons, and supported thousands of residents. They designed wide road systems, created detailed pottery, and organized communities with impressive planning. Then, in what seems like a short period of time, they abandoned everything. It remains one of the most confusing, unsolved mysteries of the American Southwest. Researchers understand that this was not an instant disappearance. Instead, it appears to have been a long and challenging migration. A powerful drought struck the region between 1276 and 1299, destroying crops and pushing entire communities toward survival crises. Years of farming the same soil may have also damaged the land, making it harder to grow food. As resources became limited, social tensions likely increased. Discoveries from locations such as Castle Rock suggest violence, conflict, and a growing sense of fear among the people. There's also evidence showing damaged or abandoned religious buildings, which hints that spiritual disagreements may have added even more stress. In a culture where religion shaped daily life, major changes in belief systems could have encouraged families to leave in search of stability elsewhere. By the late 13th century, groups from the Four Corners area began moving south and east. They created new settlements along the Rio Grande and across the Hopi Mesas, blending their traditions with new environments. Their descendants today include the Hopi, Zuni Acoma, and other Pueblo communities. Despite decades of research, the exact reason these great cities were abandoned is still not fully understood. 13. The lost city of Cahokia. At the peak of its greatness, Cahokia was the largest city ever built north of Mexico, yet its story of success and sudden decline remains one of the biggest mysteries in Native American history. This enormous center of Mississippian culture once covered more than 4,000 acres in what is now Illinois, near St. Louis. Around 1100 AD, the population may have reached 20,000 people, making it larger than London during the same period. For reasons that are still unclear, this powerful city eventually collapsed and was abandoned, leaving behind quiet mounds and unanswered questions. Cahokia was carefully organized, with open plazas, residential areas, and a massive wooden defensive wall stretching for miles. More than 100 earthen mounds stood across the region, each built for a specific purpose. Some served as burial places for important leaders, others supported temples or council buildings, and some contained graves filled with valuable objects. At the center rose Monk's Mound, an enormous structure with a base wider than the Great Pyramid of Giza and standing about 100 feet tall. Nearby stood a circle of wooden poles known as Woodhenge, used to track the seasons and demonstrating Cahokia's advanced knowledge of astronomy. The city grew strong through agriculture and long-distance trade, exchanging goods with distant regions. Burial discoveries reveal a complex social hierarchy, with elite individuals buried alongside rare objects and sometimes human sacrifices. By the mid-1300s, signs of trouble appeared. Environmental strain, overused farmland, and social unrest may all have contributed, but no single explanation fully accounts for the collapse. Within about a century, the once great city was completely abandoned. 12. The Winnemucca Lake Petroglyphs. Thousands of years ago, during a prehistoric time when glaciers were still shaping the Great Basin, unknown people carved mysterious symbols into limestone rocks near Winnemucca Lake in northwest Nevada. Today, these carvings are believed to be the oldest petroglyphs in North America, yet no one knows who created them or what they were meant to represent. The mystery becomes even more fascinating because the lake that once surrounded these stones is now completely dry, leaving behind a quiet basin far different from the wetlands that once existed there. Winnemucca Lake stretches roughly 28 miles across a valley just east of Pyramid Lake. For thousands of years, it contained shallow water filled with reeds and served as an important resting place for migrating birds. However, after the Derby Dam was constructed in 1903, and later road projects disrupted the natural water flow, the lake gradually dried out by the late 1930s. As the water disappeared, the ancient carvings slowly emerged into view. Scientists officially documented the site in 1992. They discovered that the carvings were etched into tufa limestone, which had originally formed when the lake's water level was much higher. In 2013, researchers used radiocarbon dating along with sediment analysis from Pyramid Lake to estimate when the water level dropped enough for humans to reach the exposed rocks. The results suggested two possible time periods for the carvings, between 14,800 and 13,200 years ago, and again between 11,300 and 10,500 years ago. Either time frame would make these symbols incredibly ancient, because there are no clear cultural records explaining them. The Winnemucca Lake petroglyphs remain one of the oldest and most mysterious unsolved puzzles in Native American history. 11. The Kennewick Man. The mystery known as Kennewick Man began in 1996 along the banks of the Columbia River in Washington, when two college students spotted a human skull near the shoreline. What followed turned into one of the most heated scientific and cultural debates in modern American archaeology. The remains, later called Kennewick Man or the Ancient One, were dated to between 8,500 and 9,000 years old, placing them among the oldest human remains ever discovered in North America. Even after years of research, questions about his identity and origins continued to create uncertainty. At first, scientists believed the skull had unusual features that did not match what they expected from early Native American populations. This assumption sparked major debates about who the Ancient One really was and how the earliest people arrived on the continent. Researchers want to continue studying the bones, while Native American tribes argued that the remains belonged to their ancestor and should be returned for burial. The disagreement lasted almost 20 years and eventually turned into a significant legal battle. Studies of the skeleton revealed that the man had lived a difficult and physically demanding life. He had several healed injuries, including a stone spear point lodged in his pelvis. His bones also showed evidence of long-distance movement, strong muscle development, and years of survival in challenging conditions. The mystery shifted dramatically in 2016 when advanced DNA testing confirmed that the Ancient One was genetically related to Native American tribes from Columbia Plateau region. This discovery supported tribal claims and ultimately led to his return and respectful reburial according to federal law. 10. The Roanoke Colony. The story of Roanoke, a settlement that completely disappeared and left behind only a single carved word, remains one of the most famous mysteries connected to early Native American history. In 1590, when English Governor John White returned to the colony he had established 3 years earlier, he found every building abandoned, supplies missing, and not a single person anywhere. The only clue left behind was a word carved into a wooden post: Croton. This word pointed toward a nearby island that was home to the Croatan people, a Native American group known to have friendly relations with the English settlers. White had instructed the colonists that if they ever faced danger, they should move about 50 miles inland and leave a message showing where they went. The carved word seemed to match those instructions perfectly. However, severe storms stopped White from traveling to Croton Island to search for them. From that moment forward, the fate of the Roanoke settlers became a mystery that still remains unsolved. Modern archaeological discoveries provide clues, but no definite answers. On Hatteras Island, which was once known as Croton Island, researchers uncovered European objects, including a metal hook, part of a sword hilt, and small brass shoelace tips made in English style. These items were not simple trade goods. They suggest ongoing contact and possibly shared living between cultures. Evidence of blacksmithing, such as hammer scale fragments, also indicates English techniques mixing with native traditions. Because of this, some historians believe the colonists may have joined the Croatan community and created a blended society. Still, other possibilities remain. The settlers could have died from disease, starvation, or even a failed attempt to escape by sea. 9. The Legend of the Wendigo. The Wendigo is one of the most frightening and mysterious figures found in Native American folklore, especially among Algonquin-speaking tribes of the Great Lakes region and the northeastern forests. The legend describes a terrifying being connected to winter, hunger, and the horrifying idea of a human losing control to greed or desperation. Some stories describe the Wendigo as extremely thin, with gray skin stretched tightly over its bones. Other versions portray it as a massive creature that grows larger each time it eats a person, yet somehow remains endlessly hungry. This disturbing combination of growth and starvation has made the Wendigo one of the most haunting mysteries in Indigenous storytelling. For many communities, the Wendigo is more than just a monster. It represents the dangers of selfishness and the destruction that can come from hunger, isolation, and desperation. During harsh northern winters, when food shortages threaten survival, the fear of becoming like a Wendigo served as a warning for people to remain united and support each other. Some legends even tell humans transforming into Wendigos after committing cannibalism or after being spiritually overwhelmed by extreme cold, starvation, or loneliness. Historical reports also mention what later researchers called Wendigo psychosis, a condition where individuals claim to feel an uncontrollable urge to consume human flesh. These cases are still debated today, with some experts believing they were misunderstandings or exaggerated stories recorded by early European observers. Because the legend combines mythology, psychology, environmental hardship, and moral lessons, its true origin is impossible to determine. Was it based on real survival tragedies during brutal winters, or was it mainly a symbolic warning created through storytelling? 8. The Great Hopewell Road. During the ancient Hopewell period, long before European maps or written history reached the region, a mysterious roadway once crossed the center of Ohio. Today it is called the Great Hopewell Road, a pathway bordered by parallel earthen walls that may have stretched for nearly 60 miles between the massive earthworks at Newark Earthworks and the mound complexes near Chillicothe. Even with modern technology, researchers still cannot determine its full length or its exact purpose, making it one of the most fascinating mysteries in Native American archaeology. The Newark Earthworks, constructed between 100 BC and 500 AD, included circles, squares, and a huge octagon design with incredible geometric accuracy. From the southern edge of this complex began two earthen walls spaced almost 200 feet apart. Early surveyors in 1862 followed the first 6 miles of the roadway and noticed it traveled in a remarkably straight direction across the land. Later, during the 1930s, aerial photographs revealed another 12-mile section pointing toward Chillicothe. More recent LiDAR scans show that the road surface itself was actually lower than the surrounding terrain, almost as if it had been deliberately carved into the earth. Dr. Brad Lepper and other experts believe that portions of the road may still exist in scattered fragments, visible only through aerial imaging or infrared technology. There is also proof that similar sacred roads appeared at other Hopewell locations, suggesting this path may not have been used simply for travel, but instead for ceremonies, astronomical alignments, or spiritual processions. No one truly knows how far the Great Hopewell Road once extended, or what kind of events took place along its wide route. Was it a pilgrimage path connecting two important cultural centers, or a symbolic journey linking sacred earthworks? 7. The Blythe Intaglios. Massive geoglyphs carved into the desert ground of Southern California form one of the most incredible unsolved mysteries connected to Native American cultures. These figures are known as the Blythe Intaglios, enormous designs etched into the earth near the town of Blythe, close to the Colorado River. The shapes include giant human figures, animals, and a long spiral pattern. The largest human figure measures an astonishing 171 feet in length, so large that its full shape can only be properly seen from the sky. This alone creates one of the biggest mysteries. How were such precise designs created without an aerial viewpoint? The geoglyphs were formed by removing dark desert stones from the surface to expose lighter soil underneath. The ground was then packed down tightly so plants could not grow back, allowing the lines to remain visible for centuries. More than 200 geoglyphs have been discovered across the Colorado desert, but the Blythe figures are the most well-known because of their enormous size and detailed shapes. Some scientists believe they were created over many generations, with radiocarbon dates suggesting a range between 900 BC and 1200 AD. The true meaning behind the figures is still unknown. Certain native traditions suggest the shapes represent mythological beings connected to creation stories or sacred ceremonies. One elongated human figure may represent a powerful spirit hero, while nearby animal shapes might symbolize mountain lions or other important creatures. Paths leading toward the figures also suggest that people may have traveled to the site for rituals, gatherings, or storytelling events. 6. The Legend of the Piasaw Bird. The legend of the Piasaw bird lingers along the towering limestone bluffs of Alton, Illinois, where a mysterious creature was once painted high above the waters of the Mississippi River. Today, the story most people recognize tells of a monstrous bird that hunted humans until a brave chief finally destroyed it. But the origins of the legend are far older and far more mysterious than the dramatic tale that survived. In 1673, French explorers Jacques Marquette and Louis Joliet traveled down the river and documented enormous painted figures on the cliffs. They did not describe birds. Instead, they recorded terrifying water monsters with wings, horns, long tails, and bodies covered in scales. To the native peoples of the region, these beings were powerful spiritual forces, possibly connected to storms, rivers, or unseen protective energies. Their meaning was never fully explained, and the original paintings were eventually destroyed by quarrying and natural erosion. The word Piasaw itself likely comes from a term meaning water panther, a supernatural creature known across many indigenous traditions. These beings were often seen as guardians of deep waters, feared, respected, and spiritually significant. Nothing in the earliest accounts suggested a creature that preyed on humans. The famous man-eating monster story appeared much later, in 1836, when writer John Russell published a dramatic narrative claiming the creature was slain by a heroic chief and his warriors. Russell later admitted he had invented the story entirely, but by then the legend had already captured public imagination. Even after the myth was rewritten, the deeper mystery remains. What inspired the original cliff paintings? Were they spiritual symbols, warnings, or fragments of beliefs that have now been lost to history? 5. The Mystery of the Red Paint People. Long before written history reached the northeastern coast of North America, an ancient seafaring culture lived along the rugged shores of Maine and Newfoundland and Labrador. Today, archaeologists refer to them as the Red Paint People. part of what is known as the maritime archaic tradition, a civilization that thrived thousands of years ago and then vanished, leaving behind only fragments of its story. These people were skilled hunters and navigators who traveled coastal waters in search of seals, fish, and even whales. They crafted finely polished stone tools, built organized settlements, and created elaborate burial sites. What makes them truly unique, however, is the striking red pigment found everywhere they left their mark. Graves, tools, and ceremonial objects were often covered in bright red ochre made from crushed mineral powder, giving the culture its modern name. The first discoveries appeared in the 19th century, when settlers uncovered ancient burial grounds saturated with red pigment. Some local indigenous traditions spoke of earlier inhabitants, people who lived before the memories of their own ancestors, but no clear explanation survived. Archaeologists soon realized these sites belonged to a culture far older and technologically distinct from later groups in the region. The purpose of the red ochre remains uncertain. Some researchers believe it symbolized life, blood, or spiritual rebirth. Others suggest it marked status, identity, or protection for the dead in the afterlife. Without written records, the meaning can only be guessed from clues left behind in the soil. What remains most puzzling is not how they lived, but why they disappeared. At some point, this advanced coastal culture faded from history, leaving behind only red-stained graves and unanswered questions along the cold Atlantic shore. For the mound builders' enigma, the mystery of the mound builders first came to light when 19th century settlers explored the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys and discovered thousands of earthen monuments rising from the land. Some were simple burial mounds, while others stretched for hundreds of feet in precise geometric patterns, animal shapes, and platform terraces as tall as multi-story buildings. The scale was so vast that early visitors assumed they were the ruins of a lost civilization. Few realized that the ancestors of the Native American nations they encountered could have built these incredible structures using only baskets, wooden tools, and careful organization. Archaeology eventually debunked the idea of a lost race, but a deeper mystery remains. How did so many ancient communities across the eastern United States construct massive mounds aligned perfectly with the sun, moon, and stars? And why did this tradition vanish after thousands of years? Cultures like the Adena, Hopewell, and Mississippians created these earthworks from 1500 BC to 1600 AD, shaping conical mounds, long embankments, and enormous figures, such as Ohio's famous Serpent Mound. This serpent-shaped mound stretches over 1,300 feet along a ridge, requiring millions of baskets of soil. Some sites reveal carefully layered clays and sands placed the same way every time, almost like a recipe handed down through generations. Yet no written instructions survive, and oral histories offer only glimpses of ceremonies, sky stories, and sacred gatherings. 3. The legend of the Skinwalker. Tales of skinwalkers come from the Navajo tradition, but the mystery goes far beyond simple stories of witches or monsters. In Navajo culture, a skinwalker is someone who has broken sacred laws, used forbidden rituals, and stepped into a world of dark power. The Navajo name Yinaldlishai, meaning with it, he goes on all fours, hints at the terrifying ability to move and act like an animal while retaining a human mind. These beings can appear as coyotes, wolves, owls, or even almost human figures that move in unnatural ways. Skinwalkers are described as fast, silent, and able to mimic voices with eerie perfection. Some legends say they can invade minds or cause sudden illness. Others tell of strange lights, giant wolf-like shapes, and noises that follow travelers along lonely roads. For the Navajo, these aren't mere campfire monsters. They are warnings about what happens when someone disrupts harmony or hazo by misusing spiritual knowledge. The taboo against speaking of skinwalkers makes the mystery even deeper. Many Navajo families refuse to share encounters, believing that mentioning them invites danger. Yet sightings have spread beyond Navajo lands. Ranchers, drivers, and investigators have reported shadowy shapes keeping pace with cars, footprints shifting from human to animal, and creatures that seem impervious to bullets. In some regions, these strange events are accompanied by unexplained lights or sudden bursts of radiation, leaving a haunting and unsolved mystery. 2. The death of Sacagawea. The death of Sacagawea remains one of the most debated mysteries in Native American history. While her courageous role in the Lewis and Clark expedition is well documented, the final years of her life are shrouded in uncertainty. Two completely different accounts exist, each with passionate supporters. The dilemma is clear. Both cannot be true, yet neither has ever been fully disproven. According to most widely accepted written records, Sacagawea passed away in 1812 at Fort Manuel Lisa William Clark, matching what historians knew of the family. Later, court papers from St. Louis listed the children as orphans. Many scholars take this as proof she died young, likely before reaching 25. The second account challenges everything. According to Hidatsa and Shoshone oral traditions, Sacagawea left her husband, traveled across the plains, married into a Comanche community, and lived for decades. Known as Porivo or Chief Woman, she reportedly returned to the Wind River Reservation and lived until 1884, reaching a very old age. Elders said she carried vivid memories of her journey with white explorers and even possessed items linked to the expedition. Later DNA studies revealed surprising connections between her possible descendants and the Charbonneau family, adding new layers to this enduring mystery. 1. The Spirit Cave Mummy. The Spirit Cave Mummy stands as one of North America's most remarkable and puzzling archaeological discoveries. Unearthed in 1940 in a small cave east of Fallon, Nevada, the body was carefully wrapped in tule mats, wore moccasins, and was covered with rabbit skin blanket. Initially, museum staff believed he was only a few thousand years old. But more than 50 years later, new radiocarbon testing completely changed the story. This man had lived around 7420 BC, making him over 10,000 years old, the oldest natural mummy ever found on the continent. This sudden leap in age created an extraordinary mystery. His tools and clothing revealed a culture unlike anything later native groups used. Yet striking similarities link him to ancient peoples across a wide region. His remains were also connected, in part, to another early skeleton known as Wizard's Beach Man, found about 100 miles northwest and dating to nearly the same era. A major debate emerged over tribal identity. The Fallon Paiute Shoshone tribe claimed the mummy under the Native American Grave Protection and Repatriation Act, believing he was their ancestor. For years, experts argued over whether science could confirm this connection. Court cases, studies, and official reports could not settle the question. Finally, modern DNA analysis revealed the mummy shared ancestry with both North and South American indigenous groups. This evidence validated the tribe's claim, and in 2016, the Spirit Cave mummy was returned to Fallon Paiute Shoshone lands and reburied in a private ceremony. Which of these ancient mysteries shocked you the most? Could any of them ever be fully solved? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.